Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com.
Is a fully qualified domain name where you want to access your website or server. You have to mention that FQDN name or whatever option you are selected. Correct? So these are talking about names. We talked about name, we talked about domain name. Correct? So everything we are going to talk about called as name on that particular machine, because most of the time name of the machine would be the appropriate way to access it rather than IP addresses. You might experience that. Correct? This is the small activity would be done. Correct? Now name resolution. Now this is very important server. Okay? It is called as DNS server who can do this particular job. Now, I told you that every IP address which we are using, that is the basic number, or that is the best way to contact with your server, to contact with your node. Correct? That's I agree. But the second point comes to my mind that I cannot memorize all the IP addresses which I would like to go. If I would like to go to through the website also, website does have many more IP addresses and many more services. But am I accessing those services by the IP address or by their names? So obviously it is always good idea to access the services with the help of your particular name actually. That's why our websites do have a unique name. Our internal resources which you are using, that internal resources do have a name. Correct? So the name is nothing but the name is given to a particular node. Correct? Second concept which we have seen, it's called as domain and domain name. So domain is nothing but a logical boundary of your organization. Correct? Domain name would be creating a domain name on, or you can say domain name. It's nothing but it is an identity of your organization logically. In terms of website, domain name would be the name where people can go to the browser, put that name into the browser and try to see what services which you can offer. So there are two different logic for domain name. Sometimes enterprise use the domain name. It is a logical entity which is having some name. So you can access that logical entity by that name. For website perspective, every particular website do require some domain names to be attached. Correct? But why we are doing this? Only accessing the servers by their names. But the problem would be I should have some name resolution system before there, because end of the day IP address is the only number which my computer can understand. Name is for our convenience, correct? But there has to be some system who can resolve this particular naming mechanism, and that would be done by name resolution system. Now, in our case, we do have a DNS server. DNS server is the server who contain all the domain name along with their IP addresses. Correct? Whatever domain name which you are registered over the internet, Companies do have their own DNS servers within their organization, so they can also maintain their record. Publicly, we do have lot of DNS server provided by your internet service providers. There are global DNS servers are also available, correct? The idea is only he will request you the name, database is available on the DNS server, which is nothing but it is a name is equal to IP address. Whatever name you put it into the browser, he will query that particular name to the nearest DNS server which is available, correct? Majority of time it is the DNS server within your ISP, within your office, correct? So he will talk to that same DNS server for name resolution. Once that name is resolved, that means he would be able to find out what name and IP address I'm looking for. Then that particular IP and name information would be transferred to the client and will inform the client, okay, this is the IP address where your request needs to be forwarded. Correct? So DNS is a domain name system. Once again, it is an application layer protocol. This protocol helps us to resolve the naming convention. Either it is within the organization or it would be outside the organization. It would be helping us. Correct? Now, this is a TCP/IP stack which we have discussed yesterday. This is the same stack which they are going to do it, but here there are some simple protocol they are going to talk about. This is all application or TCP/IP application layer protocol, because we are not using the 7-layer model, we are using a 4-layer model of TCP/IP. So under TCP/IP we do have a FTP. Now what is a FTP? That is nothing but, you know, that it is a simple file transfer protocol which actually sends and receive the files over the internet in an unsecured fashion. Correct? This is very important. FTP is a file transfer protocol. It works on port number 20 and 21. Correct? 21 is for data transfer, 21 is to control the command. So remember, FTP is required for 21. Okay, so this is an application layer protocol. This protocol help us to transfer the file from one location to another location. So file transfer protocol would be majorly used for this. Okay, after that, TFTP. Now this is also one of the version of FTP actually, but it uses UDP to transfer the data. Correct? It does not require any authentication. Correct? So you need to make sure that TFTP is still used. TFTP is used in order to transfer or load a new ISO file on the Cisco devices. However, if I do it over the internet, that would be risky, because here it is clearly mentioned FTP traffic is not encrypted and all the transmission are clear text. That means whatever data which you are transferring from FTP or TFTP, rather FTP using TCP/IP protocol, which is an application 7-layer protocol, which will help you to transfer the file. However, the reason behind it, it is unsecured. It is 100% unsecured. All the data would be transferred in a clear text format. Be careful if you are using FTP or TFTP. TFTP is much more lighter version and faster version, because they are just using an UDP protocol in order to transfer the data. Correct? TFTP also used, I will show you, correct? Because we would like to upload some files on the router. That time we are using TFTP, but the only reason to use it, if you and the router at the same location. It should not be at the different location at all. This is a criteria. NTP, this is called as Network Time Protocol. This is a very important protocol who can synchronize your time with the time servers. Correct. Once again, it works on layer 7. It is an application layer protocol worked on TCP/IP model. Correct. It discover the actual time zones, whatever default time zones which we have. Okay, there are multiple default time zones are required. Now majority people say why we are required a clock kind of thing. Clocks are very important. Time synchronization is very important in certain cases. For example, if I have a server where that server should be the part of the cluster, if there is a time mismatch in the cluster, your entire cluster would goes down. So it is always recommended that if you are running such application which is completely based on the time and configuration, you have to go for NTP protocol. Once again, it is an UDP standard. He will send it. He does not require any kind of TCP recommendation or acknowledgement at all. He just send it. That's it. Correct. So NTP is a network time protocol which help you to synchronize your computer timing according to the timing which is available to the internet. So that time syncing should be only be done on the top of your NTP. SNMP, now this is the protocol which you are using all the time in your data center. Simple network management protocol. This is a protocol which work on IP, which work on TCP, which work on layer 7. Correct. Now this is actually run on the top of UDP protocol. The transmission is actually happening on UDP. Rather, it says it is a TCP/IP protocol, but it is working on UDP. Now, this is very important protocol for monitoring solutions. Okay, administrator who is going to manage and monitor the complete networks, managing and monitoring complete routers, switches, user, everything monitoring related activity would be done by this particular protocol. I'm not saying this is a software. This protocol help us in order to monitor and you match your manage your entire network with a centralized location. SNMP protocol help us to do that. Correct. So majority monitoring is the best activity for this. He will capture all the data which is available on the data center and he will send all the data to the monitoring dashboard that will help you to give you the idea what exactly going on. Correct. So this is very important protocol in networking as well as in server because this is typically used for network monitoring. SNMP. SMTP, you know that what is a SMTP protocol. Now this is a simple mail transfer protocol. It can be used in order to send the mail. It is once again an application layer protocol where you are going to use any application to send your data. It work on port number 25 and A587. Now 587 4465, there are different port for a same service for different activities actually. So any given point of time, SMTP is actually the service which is used by mail servers. It is nothing to do with another thing, but majority of mail servers are actually using this protocol. In order to implement it, either you need a mail server software or a mail server itself who can manage this. Correct. Then POP3 is protocol to retrieve the mail. To read the mail, we are using the POP3 protocol. It is also working on port number 1110.
Hey viewers, our Mastery in DevOps engineering program can help you to hone the skills necessary to succeed in high-level DevOps positions. So, what are you waiting for? Enroll now and earn certification that show you are keeping pace with today's technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
It also working on the protocol which mail servers can run it on. One mail server is sending, one protocol for receiving. So POP and SMTP, POP or IMAP, they are working on hand to hand, because POP server is very important in order to read the emails, send the emails. SMTP is there. If you want to click onto the send button, then you should have the protocol called as IMAP as well as SMTP while sending the email. So next protocol is IMAP. This is the Internet Message Access Protocol. Now this is also used for email server. Remember that this email server, whatever email server which you are using, correct? Every email server, either it is using SMTP or either they are using IMAP. IMAP is much more secure as compared to SMTP, much more reliable as compared to security is concerned. That's why IMAP is used widely in order to send the mail. Next protocol is called as HTTP. Everybody know that our all the websites are actually working on HTTP protocol. It work once again layer 7, correct? It use on port number 80, correct? So HTTP is typically used in order to access any web content through your browser, correct? So understand, there would be one more protocol would be expected there, that is called as HTTPS. Now HTTP is a single plain protocol. That means you're accessing the website, all the data transfer would be happening between you and the website. It would be a complete plain text. Okay, so that is not a safest option which is actually available. We should have the communication happen between your HTTP server and the client, but that encryption, that particular communication should be encrypted. Now that is only possible if you have HTTPS protocol. Along with that, you should have proper configuration done for your HTTPS. Okay, it's very important protocol. Correct. After that, we have a Telnet. Now we are not using a Telnet. Telnet is a terminal emulation program. Now this is something like you want to log in from one machine to another machine, and if you would like to do the login, either you can use RDP or SSH. Along with that, in early days we used to have Telnet who can actually do the same thing over here, correct? So Telnet is also an application layer protocol, correct, which will help you in order to communicate to the server through that remote session. But the problem with the Telnet would be, once again, it is unsecure. That's the reason we are using SSH, correct? But still Telnet is available. Now you can see the SSH is a secure shell. Telnet is unsecured, SSH is a secured. This will help you to transfer all the data between your client and between your server in a secured fashion. Now 99% you people are using SSH in order to log into the remote server. The reason behind it, whatever commands which you are executing, whatever data which is coming to your screen, everything would be encrypted over here, correct? So this is also important. Now this is just a reading material. You just need to go through this material, nothing important, correct? Smb protocol. Now this is a server message block. Now this particular protocol help you to share the data across Windows network. This particular protocol help you to share the printer. This protocol helps you to share the actual printer, scanner, other folders, share devices, and everything. This protocol helps us in order to share the data between two different type of devices, correct? But make sure that SMB is something which is typically help us in order to share the files and folder. Initially, there was a software called as Simba or Samba, correct? Now some people say that is a software which will help us to share the share the files and folders. Majorly it was the Samba server in Unix, correct? But slowly they implemented the same technique on the top of Windows, and they converted this particular technique as a server message block, SMB, on the top of Windows as well. Typical a protocol help us to share files and folders. You might be able to see you have multiple network shared drives are available, which is working on a protocol called as NFS. Within your company network, you might be able to see lot of computers, lot of printers under network neighborhood. Now that particular communication would be happening on the top of SMB protocol, which is a subset of Samba protocol actually. Now this is interesting protocol which you have RDP. You know about this particular protocol a lot. This is called as Remote Desktop Protocol, RDP. This protocol help you to communicate on remotely try to log in to a Windows based server, correct? This is something which is implemented by Microsoft, correct? Microsoft do not use protocol called as SSH. SSH typically used for Unix based system. But if I would like to log into the remote server with the help of Windows, then RDP is the appropriate option which we can do. Now today we have received the labs. Now there they have mentioned that RDP IP address, something like that. What do you mean by that? You have to do the RDP on that particular IP address, so you will get a remote access. Correct. Now remote access by default is not enabled on your computer. If you want to do it, you have to configure that particular option on your computer. I will show you, okay, in RDP how you can enable the RDP on your machine. Otherwise, that particular RDP is not available. If you go to the properties, okay, now if I go to remote settings, currently I have checked this box, allow remote assistant connection on this computer. Okay. Now remote desktop, do not allow remote connection to this computer. Now this is something blocked. If I say allowed and okay, then only you can take the RDP of my computer. If I do not give you the permission over here, you won't be able to take the RDP of my computer at all. RDP is simple protocol, help us in order to do the login, graphical login to the remote Microsoft computer. Correct? Now this is the end of this particular chapter. This chapter is only a basic theory about what are the different type of protocol. This is an application layer protocols which is available and variety of the implementation. You just need to read the complete theoretical part. You just need to understand on which port that particular application work, what is the port number for that, on which layer that particular application work, correct? Because majority of the time they will ask you the question based on, okay, this is the protocol, this is the service, tell me on which particular port it is working, correct? So this complete chapter will give you all the idea about whatever application related protocols or application layer protocols which you are using in your day-to-day enterprise networks. Correct? Is there any doubt in this? Anything you don't understand? It is pretty simple topic. It does not give you any complex things. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. No doubts? Okay, no problem. Okay, now before we move to the next chapter, okay, now the question is asked, okay, TFTP also layer 7? Yes. TFTP is one of the application, correct? It built on FTP. It is also comes under application layer. These are some protocols. If I can show you, I will share my screen. Okay. It's a little bit slow. Give me a moment. Why it's slow? Okay. I will share the screen. I don't know why it is so much slow actually. I hope you are able to see it. I will show you. Okay. Application layer protocols. List. Do we get any site from wiki? Site from Wikipedia over here. Yeah. Okay. You can go to this link actually. It will give you the complete idea about protocols. You can see these all list. It's a complete list would be there, which is an protocol for your application. Okay, this is the list. Now, this is a very simple list. Out of that, we have seen RDP was there. NFS was, I just discussed that if you are sharing the files over the network, NIS is there, correct? LDAP is there. So you can go IMAP is there, DNS is there, HTTP is there, HTTPS is there. So these are all application layer protocol on which some application is built, correct? We do have multiple protocols actually on which we can use it, and we can, in order to share the data with them, or in order to send and receive the data with that. So any given point of a time, any application which you are using in order to share and receive the data, we can consider that application would be considered as a application layer, correct? So these are the list of the application layer protocol, correct? Now, if I would like to show you one more interesting thing. You can.
Hey viewers, trying to get into DevSecOps? Enroll for our DevSecOps certified professional programs and earn the certification that shows you are fit for these technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
Every layer do have some protocols. Remember that. If I say data link layer, set wiki. Okay, this is the page of the data link layer. In data link also, we will see some protocol example. These are data link protocols. CDP, CAN, correct? Frame relay, SDLC. These are data link protocol which is working on layer 2, correct? This is, I told you, this is we are going to do spanning tree protocol is going to work on that, correct? These are the protocol. It is actually working now. Link layer discovery protocol, LLDP, everything would be available over here, correct? So just read that particular documentation, clarify, that will give you the complete idea, because if I start telling you about each and every protocol, it would be a time consuming process. We would not be able to cover everything. But yes, there are multiple protocols are available which we can use it in each and every layer, correct? Now let's move to the next chapter, which is quite big and quite interesting. Okay, network security. Okay, network security. Now we have seen the network, we can create it, correct? Now one of the part which we are going to learn in CCNA, that how we can create network security on the top of switch, and the concept called as access control list, correct? We will see that particular chapter that will help you to create the network level security, but which once again it is a basic security regarding network, correct? How we can secure the network and what are the parameters which we can use in order to secure that particular network, correct? Now what are the security factors, correct? The most important thing which we need to understand, if I want to consider the security, is called as authorization, correct? Authorization means what are the privileges and right which you are provided over the network, correct? This is very, very important. Access control, determining, assigning privileges related to the object and data, correct? Accountability, who is going to take the responsibility if any kind of event is happened. Now any kind of event mean any kind of a security event is happened, who is going to take the accountability over there, correct? Auditing, what would be the auditing mechanisms are available, what you are tracking, are you recording the system activity, are you recording the privilege access which you are doing, are you recording each and every command which is executing? So every auditing factor is very, very important. Confidentiality, what data which you are keeping it confidential, what are the private communications are there, what are the unauthorized protected communications are there. If I'm using very, very confidential data which I'm transferring, how I can make that confidential data to be transferred in a secure environment, correct? This is once again very, very important aspect. At the time when you are going to confidentiality, you have to make sure that the integrity of the data should also be maintained. Integrity means nobody can tamper my data, Whatever original data would be sent, it should be remain same. Nobody can tamper that data and change the integrity. And security factor is called as availability. I would like to make sure that the availability should be available there. Your data should be properly available and transferred over the network. Now, security is a very big concept. They will talk about authorization, auditing, confidentiality, integrity, availability, compliance, correct? Accountability, access control mechanisms, authentications mechanism, correct? So every aspect of the security we can use on the top of networking, because our networking is the first and very important thing where people can do the attack, because this is the only way that hacker can come inside your network, correct? Second important factor, if there is a level 2 attacker, there is a person who is already the part of your company, he can also be an attacker for you, correct? So you have to maintain all the security policies of your network in a such a way that any attack, either it is coming from outside or the attack which is already the part of your network, somebody is doing it from the inside, both the way you need to manage and maintain it, correct? Now this complete chapter is completely focused on security part, correct? Now accountability, now authentication, authorization and access. Now these are the three important factors which is discussed. Authentication means what are the authentication mechanism you are using? Are you using username password? Are you using any token system? Are you using multi-factor authentication? Authorization means, okay, authentication is done, then who you are, what you are authorized for. Are you authorized to handle the file and disk? Are you authorized as a system admin? Are you authorized as a network admin? Are you authorized as a hardware person? If you're authorized, then what access you have? Whether do you have read and write access, or whether you have a read access only? Whether do you able to delete and shut down this server? That is comes under the access. So you can imagine every security factor which you are going to discuss on it, every security factor would be counted and measured, correct? We will see in this particular chapter basic security concept, correct? The second very important concept you required. So first concept is called as non-repudiation, correct? This is very important. Non-repudiation. Non-repudiation means, let's say, now if you understand this term, then next terms are very simple. Now non-repudiation means, if these two computers are there and this computer is sending some data to this computer, correct? Now I said this data is non-repudiated. Non-repudiated means this computer will never deny that I have not sent the data, correct? This particular feature is called as non-repudiation, correct? He should not say disagree that okay, this is not sent by me, okay? Data remain associated with the party that create it and send it to transmission. That means this is the same thing which I'm talking. If I want to send the data, correct, I will send the data, but I will never say this data is not sent it from me. This data should always remain to this particular party. You should never deny this particular data is not sent by me. This particular feature would be considered as non-repudiation. Okay, this is very, very important if you talk about security. Nobody should deny, oh, this data is not sent by me. No, it should not be happen. So you have to make sure that it should be remain with that party, that he should be the owner of that particular party. He should never come to us and say deny, I have not sent this particular data to you. Least privileges. Least privileges, as it names, you should have the proper privileges mentioned and managed. Correct? You cannot give all the privileges to everyone. It is quite risky. I cannot give any normal system administrator guy who's a junior guy who can access the router directly. No, it is not technically possible at all. If he can do any mistake, everything may goes down. So there is a concept called as least privileges. Okay, this is the basic principle for privilege management. You should have minimum level access given to a specific particular person or respective system, that he can only access minimum things. Correct? Risk. This is very important feature. If you know there is a risk, that means you already know that if any kind of attack is happened to my server, I can have a risk that he can delete my data. I have a risk that it can hamper my business. I have a risk that he will try to steal my data and corrupt my data. Correct? So risk means whatever action which would be happen if any kind of event is happened. You should know what is the risk of that particular event. You just don't understand the risk, you have to manage that risk. You need to identify the risk first. If any attack is happened, what are the risky factors? If risk is happened, if that particular risk is happened, then how we are going to manage it? Correct? So that particular parameters, it should be also enter, and it should be also managed under the concept called be list. You can say any damage, any loss, significance like hazardous threat. I should know what is the risk if anything happened to this. I should maintain that risk. I should list that risk. I should have some plan of action if anything happened to that particular risk. That concept is called as risk management. Correct? Data bridge. Now this is very important. Now any secure information data, confidential data which is transmitted over the network should be stolen. And there are many third-party tools are available, which could be a sniffing tool, which could be a tool which you can use to store the data. So data bridge is another very common threat. It should be in the list in terms of networking. I can show you, I can install a Wireshark software on my machine. That Wireshark software will capture each and every data packet which is moving across the network. I can see your data packet. The only good thing is if your data is encrypted, I won't be able to see your data in the packet. However, if your data is a plain text, I would able to see your data. Correct? So this is one more important concept you need to take care of it if the network security is concerned. Unauthorized access. Now unauthorized access is simply that you are not authorized to access any particular server, but you gain the access of it. Correct? With some unauthorized type or with the help of some utilities also, there are some technique to gain the access of any server, any router, any switch, whatever security enabled devices which you have, I would be able to log in. So you have to stop somebody to gain such kind of unauthorized access also. Correct? So these are basic security concept you need to understand. Correct? This is the same concept they are talking about. Now, what is vulnerabilities? Vulnerabilities is nothing but your loopholes. Your loopholes which is available in your network, which is available in your system. Some weak point. Now, some of the weak point they are giving. Maybe that you are putting some network completely unsecured. You are putting simple passwords. Physical security is very, very simple. Designing of the network is very, very poor. Configuration, you have not configured anything properly. You have not patched your system. So these are the factors who can make sure that there should be some loophole, there should be some weakness in your network. For example, if you do not change the default password of your system.
Hey viewers, are you looking for formal training on SRE practices? Take our SRE program. This course will teach you how to successfully implement site reliability engineering in the modern day 24/7 services. Kickstart your SRE training today. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
This is a vulnerability because company gave you some default password and you are keep using it. So that is the vulnerability that anybody can logged into that and get the access of your data. This is one of the loophole, or we can configure as it is a vulnerability. Sometime you are putting your wireless network unsecured by mistake. This is a vulnerability. You are using Windows XP as your operating system. Now that is vulnerability because Windows XP is the most vulnerable system. You have to patch it. Correct? So vulnerability is nothing but a weakness. Now that weakness could be happen with any form. In network, what could be the vulnerability? Unnecessary ports are open. You are allow the traffic to come on FTP. You are allow the traffic to come on some DNS. You are allow the traffic to come on some Samba server, and you are not using anything. You just make all the ports open that you are allow the traffic to come inside. Now that is vulnerability. That is a weakness. Correct? So that concept is called as vulnerability. Now what is exploit? Okay. Now if any attacker identify the vulnerability, now people ask me how they do that actually. Now this is possible with the help of some vulnerability scanners. There are some vulnerability scanner. For example, I will give you. Okay, there are many vulnerability scanner tools are available. Now these are the tools. Now these tools are made in order to find out the vulnerability. Now list is not given over here. Okay, I will just enable is one of them. That I know. We can see. Now these all tools actually detect the vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities means your loopholes. Netscraper, OpenVAS, W3AF. There is a Nmap, OpenSCAP. Now these are open source. Now if you want to go for paid also, there also a paid vulnerability scanners. Okay, there is a LAN guard, there is a Nexus, LAN guard scanner, language scanner. Okay, LAN guard security scanner. Now GFF LAN guard, this is a very beautiful software. What he will do, he will find out a security. Any loophole is there, any weakness is there. By default, you are not patched the system. By default, you have not enabled any particular old password, anything, any particular security breach is there under this category, vulnerability. He will find out the vulnerability. Now, what is exploit? Now here, attacker identified vulnerability. Now, how they identify? They do have multiple tools are available which we can use in order to identify vulnerability. Correct? And attacker take the advantage of that vulnerability. That particular action could be called as exploits. Okay, exploits means taking the advantage of your weakness. In network, if I come to know that FTP port is open, okay, FTP port is open, FTP is made for file transfer protocol. By mistake, it is open on my network. That means my router or firewall accept FTP request. Correct? This is the loophole. Now there are many exploits are available. Exploit means there are step-by-step procedures are available where I can take the advantage of your this FTP port. That particular action would be considered as exploit, taking the advantage of your weakness. Correct? Next thing, threat. Okay, now threat is nothing but any kind of event which could be happened on your system or your network. Correct? Now you know that I do have a threat that somebody can take my purse when I'm traveling. I do have a threat that while I'm traveling that somebody can take my bags. Threat means you know that such kind of event can be happened with you that will result something of lost as a person. But as a threat in a network management, threat could be some kind of action potentially happening. In a simple word, you can say any attack could happen on your particular network, and that would be a violation of the security policy and procedure. That would be a violation. For example, if I know one threat is available. For example, I'm running a server. Okay, I'm running a server and there is a third person. Okay, I'm running a server and this is a third person. He know that he understand there is a vulnerability in my network. He know that he can take the advantage of that vulnerability, that I know there is an exploit available, and I done the attack on that particular system. What I did attack on that particular system, and I took the data, I destroy that particular system, I make sure that this entire server is completely blank. Now I took the copy of the data on my place, and I will make sure that this service which is running on this server would be completely shut down. Now I have done the attack. Correct? Now, as per the company perspective, this was a threat. This action could happen. If this action is happened, what is a security violation is done? That somebody unauthorized access was given. He took the data, he copied the data, he destroyed the system, my service is completely unavailable. Everything would be considered as a threat for me. Correct? Threat is nothing but a event, action, could be happen that will destroy my system, stop my service. They can steal my data, correct? He would be destroy the entire network. He would put some virus over there. These are my threat, correct? I know these are threat. People should know what are the threats are available in your network, correct? Now these threats could be managed and maintained as well. This is also very important part. Now understand what is risk, what is exploitation, what is threats. These are interchange words. Some people will get confused in this. Okay, you can say unconditional information threat. Okay, so any action would be happen. Attacks is a technique. Okay? Attack is a technique to exploit the vulnerability. Then what is a threat? Understand, people are confused. Threat is does not mean attack. Attack is a technique. Okay, exploit means I take the advantage of that exploit. Sorry, you can say something like this in a very simple fashion. I do have the vulnerability. Vulnerabilities means weakness. Somebody can take the advantage of that vulnerability. I can say that action could be exploit. Correct? Attacks is a process or a technique who can take the advantage of that particular vulnerability and do the exploitation. Correct? Now I know that if this action would be happen, this action would be completely a threat for me. And because of this threat, I do have some risk associated with that. That risk would be I can lose my data. Correct? Now all these terms are interconnected with each other, but they would be completely different when we are discussing it. So if you can see, attack is a technique that used to exploit the vulnerability. This is the technique. I do have a tools. I do have a Python program. I'm using that technique to attack someone. Correct? Threat means this whatever action which you are doing with the help of attack, and due to this action, some loss would be happened, some violation should be happen. That could be my threat. Correct? Because of threat, I should have the risk associated with that. Okay, there is a concept called as risk. Correct? I know because of this threat, I do have this risk. I should know this threat. I should know this risk before any kind of attacks happen because of vulnerability. Correct? So these terms are very, very important. They're talking about hackers and attackers. To be obviously, hackers and attackers are actually same. They are not a different entity. For theoretical or exam perspective, they said these are two different entities. Technically speaking, they are not a different entity. A person who is an hacker can be a attacker. Okay, but conceptually, they said hacker would be a person who will gain unauthorized access to through the system, and they will be able to get into your system with the help of some programming coding. Attackers who gain the unauthorized access for malicious purpose. Okay, that means he is going to destroy the system. To be honest, both are same. There is no difference at all. Correct? They are same. Attackers could be an hackers, or attackers could be an hackers could be an attackers. Both are same. Correct? Auditing and logging. Now this is very important thing which you required. Now whatever auditing which we required, the auditing help us to find out what exactly happened if there is an attack. Correct? Logging is actually also very important facility we require to understand any event is happened or not. Whatever log files are generated, whatever logs, error message, whatever you are going to understand, these log files, event file, trace files are very important in order to rescan them and identify what exactly happened. Correct? Now there are many auditing tools are also available, offline auditing tools. You simply give the log file to them, he will audit that log file and he will tell you what are the malicious things or malicious activities are actually happening. Now they just compare the log, what is the normal log and what is the difference between unnormal, or you can say malicious log. So these two things they can compare and will find out, okay, such kind of event would happen. So auditing and logging. Logging is a very important. You need to capture the log of each and every system. You need to capture the trace files. You need to capture the events. Whatever your system, your application, your network which is generated, you should have a proper logging system. You just do not have a logging system, you should have subsidiary auditing system who can read that log and identify what is going on. Correct? So this is helping you to identify and find out what exactly happened. That means it is like a detective story. You are going to analyze the log and will find out what exactly happened that moment of the time. Correct? Now this is discussion kind of a thing. Now these are security policy. Now this is simply a policy based document. I believe that.
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.